Shannan Gilbert was a 24-year-old woman who had faced more hardship by her mid-20s than most people see in a lifetime. She grew up in a string of foster homes, battled mental health issues, and eventually turned to escort work to support herself. Despite it all, she was hopeful. She dreamed of being a singer, of building a life beyond Craigslist ads and late-night hotel rooms. Her laugh was sharp and memorable. Her spirit was restless, but her eyes still held light. On the night of May 1, 2010, Shannan took a job in Gilgo Beach, an exclusive gated community in Long Island. She arrived with her driver, Michael Pack, to meet a client named Joseph Brewer. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, until it all went horribly wrong. At 4:51 a.m., Shannan placed a chilling 911 call. For 21 minutes, she whispered and screamed for help, telling the dispatcher, "They're trying to kill me." The recording was panicked, confusing, and disturbing. She knocked on neighbors' doors. She ran. She vanished. Police showed up an hour later but conducted only a cursory search. It wasn't until 7 months later, in December 2010, that her body would be found. But in looking for Shannan Gilbert, police found something else first. Something unspeakable. The community of Gilgo Beach had always been protective of its privacy. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone's business and protected it. Shannan's sudden disappearance disrupted their quiet routine. Her last known location was traced to Brewer's home, but he insisted she simply panicked and ran off. Her driver gave inconsistent statements. The police didn't press hard. Shannan's mother, Mari Gilbert, didn't accept it. She was vocal, determined, and angry. She organized searches, pressured law enforcement, and hounded the media. She knew her daughter didn't vanish into the marsh on her own. During a routine sweep along Ocean Parkway, police made a grisly discovery: a burlap sack buried in the dunes. Inside were the remains of a woman. 3 more bodies were found over the next few days. The remains were skeletal. All women. All young. All missing for years. All had worked as online escorts. And all had been dumped near Gilgo Beach. As the news broke, families across the East Coast began calling the Suffolk County Police Department, desperate for closure. But for every answer, more questions emerged. Some bodies were wrapped in burlap. Some dismembered. Some had been placed with ritualistic care. Others were scattered. The medical examiner could not determine precise causes of death, though strangulation was suspected. Mari Gilbert became the face of the fight. She refused to let her daughter be erased as just another escort. She demanded that Shannan be included with the others. But the police claimed Shannan's death was accidental. That claim would haunt them. By spring 2011, 10 sets of human remains had been found along the same stretch of Ocean Parkway. Some were complete skeletons. Others were dismembered torsos and skulls. A few remains matched missing women from as far back as 1996. The press began calling the killer LISK, the Long Island serial killer. But police didn't have a suspect. They didn't even have a working profile. The victims included Melissa Barthélemy, 24, last seen in July 2009. Her sister received multiple taunting calls from the killer after Melissa vanished. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, 25, a single mom who went missing in 2007. Megan Waterman, 22, disappeared in 2010 after posting an ad on Craigslist. Amber Lynn Costello, 27, last seen in September 2010. In each case, the killer used burner phones to contact the victims and their families. Cell tower data showed the calls came from Manhattan, Massapequa, and even near Madison Square Garden. The killer was mobile, calculated, and technologically savvy. The FBI was initially barred from the case by then Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke, who insisted local resources were sufficient. Years later, it would be revealed that Burke had his own demons. He was convicted in 2016 for beating a suspect and orchestrating a cover-up. Meanwhile, more bodies surfaced. One was a toddler. Another was the child's mother. Both had been dismembered and dumped in separate locations. Another body was found with her head and hands missing, presumably to delay identification. Despite the similarities, law enforcement began dividing the victims into groups. Some were linked to LISK, others dismissed as unrelated. The lack of a centralized investigation caused chaos. And then came the Manorville connection. In 2000 and 2003, 2 dismembered torsos had been found in Manorville, about 40 miles from Gilgo Beach. Years later, DNA testing matched those remains to body parts found along Ocean Parkway. This expanded the potential timeline from 1996 to 2011, a 15-year killing spree. Another chilling clue: some victims had items removed post-mortem. Tattoos cut off, jewelry taken, nails clipped. One victim was found with 3 5-inch plastic duck hunting decoys nearby. Some theorized the killer was a hunter or fisherman. Others believed the decoys were symbolic. Still, no forensic evidence was recovered. No blood, no skin, no fingerprints, no hair. Whoever the killer was, they were meticulous. The families grew frustrated. Some accused the police of deliberately stalling. The media speculated wildly. Online sleuths accused clients, cops, neighbors, even serial killers from other states. Then came a new theory: there wasn't one killer. There were 2. The distinct differences in victim disposal suggested 2 methods. One killer used burlap and posed bodies. Another dismembered and scattered remains. This led to speculation that 2 predators were operating in the same area. Was it a coincidence? Or were they collaborating? And what about Shannan Gilbert? In 2011, police recovered her remains in the marsh, half a mile from where she was last seen. They claimed she drowned. But her autopsy showed no signs of water in her lungs. Her hyoid bone was damaged, a potential sign of strangulation. Her mother, Mari, pushed for a second autopsy. Dr. Michael Baden, a famous forensic pathologist, reviewed the case and concluded her death was consistent with homicide. The police refused to reopen the case. For years, the case went cold. In 2016, tragedy struck again. Mari Gilbert was murdered by her other daughter, Sarah, who suffered from schizophrenia. Mari was stabbed over 200 times. With her death, the loudest advocate for Shannan's case was gone. The public lost hope. But in 2022, Suffolk County Police formed a new task force. They reviewed old case files, cell data, and DNA samples. In July 2023, they arrested Rex Hoyerman, a 59-year-old architect from Massapequa Park. Hoyerman was a father, a husband, and a man who had never been on law enforcement's radar. But his DNA matched a hair found on one of the Gilgo victims. Burner phones, computer searches, and even fake email accounts linked him to the murders. He was charged with the murders of Barthélemy, Waterman, and Costello, and remains the prime suspect in others. But here's the twist. Hoyerman has not been charged with the murder of Shannan Gilbert, nor with the Manorville dismemberments, nor with the toddler and her mother. This suggests what some feared all along. Hoyerman may not have acted alone. Or worse, he may not be the only serial killer using Long Island as a dumping ground. Some believe LISK is a myth that hid multiple killers. Others believe the real LISK is still out there. What remains chillingly true is this: over a dozen people died violent, lonely deaths. And justice has only partially arrived. The fog still hangs over Gilgo Beach. Till today.